On a chilly September evening in Meadowbrook, a quiet town nestled deep in Pennsylvania, Claire and Daniel owned a modest farm. They mostly grew wheat, having dedicated their lives to farming. It was peaceful but lonely, with their nearest neighbors, Mason and Jack, each living about a mile away in different directions. One drizzly evening, they invited Mason and his wife over for drinks. After hours of laughter and wine, Mason and his wife left around 11 p.m. Claire and Daniel stayed up, feeling the warmth of the wine and the comfort of their cozy living room, watching one of their favorite movies. But their relaxation was interrupted by an unexpected knock at the door. Knocks this late were unheard of. They strained to listen as a muffled voice outside called out, "We need help." Claire tensed and gave Daniel a worried glance. "Don't answer," she whispered. But Daniel felt compelled to at least ask who it was. As he approached the door, the voice spoke again. "We're lost. Can you help us?" Daniel hesitated, asking, "Who's we?" The voice replied, "My wife and I." Something about the voice felt off to Daniel, and when he asked for the woman to speak, there was an eerie silence. After a pause, the voice responded, "She's not right here right now." Alarm bells started ringing in Daniel's head. The voice felt unnatural, almost like someone trying to imitate a higher tone. He thought of Mason and his love for pranks, especially after a few drinks. "Mason, is that you?" he called out, hoping for a laugh in return. The voice hesitated before replying, "Yeah, it's me," but in a deeper, unfamiliar tone. Daniel's smile vanished. He grabbed his phone and called Mason, who picked up after a few rings. "Are you outside my house?" Daniel asked nervously. Mason's response sent a chill through him. "No, why? There's someone here pretending to be you?" This, Daniel replied, voice trembling. Mason promised to come over right away. While they waited, more knocks came at the door. Daniel yelled out, "I've got a shotgun!" hoping to scare them off. The voice outside remained calm, replying, "We just need to use a phone." Suddenly they heard footsteps on the wooden deck outside, circling the house. Claire, on the phone with the police, screamed when the intruders tried to pry open a window. Daniel raced upstairs to retrieve his shotgun just as Mason arrived, banging on the door and calling out. After Mason came in, they scoured the property together but found no sign of anyone. The police arrived an hour later, but could only offer advice: install cameras. To this day, Claire and Daniel wonder who or what was lurking outside their home that night, knowing it was only a thin wooden door keeping them safe. If you like this story, please like and subscribe to Midnight Scares. It was the summer of 2018, just me alone at my grandparents' farm for a few nights. Seemed like an easy gig: watch the place, feed the cows, enjoy the peace and quiet. But let me tell you, that last night, it's one I'll never forget. I was chilling in the living room watching TV when I heard something weird outside. It was like this strange rustling coming from the cornfield. At first, I didn't think much of it, probably just a deer, right? But then all the cows started mooing at once. You ever heard an entire barn of cows mooing in unison? It wasn't normal. Something was up. Now, usually, you might hear one cow, maybe two, making noise. But when they're all freaking out, that's when you know something's seriously wrong. It was just me out there, so I figured I had to check it out. I grabbed my coat and was just about to step outside when I heard it. A high-pitched scream. But not just any scream. It was from one of the cows. My heart nearly stopped. Every hair on my body stood up. I froze for what felt like forever, shaking so hard I could barely breathe. Whatever was going on out there, it wasn't good. I rushed upstairs to grab my grandpa's hunting rifle from under his bed. You see, he always kept it loaded in case of coyotes or trespassers. I wasn't about to be caught unarmed. The cows were still going nuts when I stepped into the barn. Nothing seemed off at first, until I noticed one of the cows was missing from its stall. I swear it had been tied up there the last time I checked. Then I heard it again, that same eerie, high-pitched moo, but this time from the cornfield. I went outside to check it out, but as I approached the field, something else hit me: voices. It sounded like people whispering out there. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I fired 2 rounds into the air and lining, hoping to scare off whoever or whatever was out there. For a moment, everything went quiet. The cows stopped. The voices stopped. I thought maybe that did the trick, until I heard footsteps in the field. I knew I couldn't just hide inside. It was my responsibility to protect the farm, so I walked into the cornfield, rifle raised. But as I pushed deeper into the crops, I could hear footsteps all around me, closing in. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. Then I saw him. Just a few feet away, down one of the rows, was a man, dressed in all black, standing completely still. I pointed my gun at him, yelling at him to get out of my field, but he didn't move. I fired another warning shot, but still, nothing. He started walking towards me, arms outstretched like he wanted me to lower my weapon. And that's when I realized I wasn't alone. There were more of them. 6, maybe 7, dressed just like him, all standing among the corn, wearing these creepy, expressionless masks. I stepped back, and they just stood there in eerie silence. I swear I've never been so terrified in my life. Then they started chanting. I couldn't make out the words, but it wasn't English. It sounded like some sort of ritual, like they were preparing for something dark and twisted. That's when I bolted. I ran faster than I've ever run in my life, not stopping until I was completely out of breath. I fired off a few more rounds, and finally, I heard them scatter. The footsteps rushed away into the night, but as I made my way back to the house, I saw it. In the middle of the field, illuminated by a circle of candles, was a cow's head. It was just lying there, staring up at the sky like some sick offering. I felt my stomach turn, and when I got back to the farmhouse, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I threw up right there in the kitchen. I called the cops, barely able to explain what had just happened. They said they'd send someone over right away. Then I called my parents and begged them to come pick me up. When my dad said he'd be there in an hour, it felt like the longest hour of my life. Eventually, the police showed up, and I've never felt so relieved. The officer searched the barn and the field. He found the cow's head and called for backup to investigate. It was officially a crime scene at that point. When my parents finally arrived, I couldn't get out of there fast enough. My grandparents installed security cameras all over the farm after that night. Whatever that group was, whether it was some kind of cult or just a bunch of sickos, I was just unlucky enough to be home alone the night they chose to strike. That's it for tonight's scare. Have any of you ever experienced something like this? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, stay safe out there. And remember to lock your doors. You never know who or what might be lurking in the shadows. This is Midnight Scare, signing off. This one is personal, and it's a story I'll never forget. My name's Hunter, I'm 25 years old, and I've spent most of my life on our family's farm. We're in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana. It's just me, my parents, and my 2 younger sisters, Lauren and Kayla. I'm the oldest and the only son, so naturally my parents want me to take over the farm one day. But honestly, I can't see myself staying here forever, especially not after what happened last summer. It all started last July. My parents decided to take a week off for a romantic getaway, leaving me and my sisters in charge of the farm. It's a quiet place with lots of privacy, maybe too much privacy if you ask me. The night this all went down, Lauren was upstairs doing some online college work. Kayla and I were chilling in the living room, watching some mindless TV. Now, living on a farm has its downsides, and I'm not just talking about the hard work. We've had a few run-ins with people trying to steal our crops. Yeah, it happens, even out here in the sticks. We keep a few guns around just in case, and we've got 2 big dogs that patrol the yard. But on this particular night, something spooked the dogs real bad. They were going crazy in the backyard, barking their heads off. I grabbed a flashlight and went outside to see what was up. Both dogs were fixated on the cornfield, barking like they'd lost their minds. I tried to calm them down, but then I heard it, a whistling sound coming from deep inside the cornfield. And let me tell you, this wasn't some bird or animal. It was definitely a person. My heart was pounding. This was the first time I dealt with a trespasser without my dad around. I ran back inside to grab one of the guns. I told my sisters what was going on, and they freaked out. They told me I was crazy if I thought I was going into that cornfield in the dark. And you know what? They were right. The thought of chasing someone in there made my skin crawl. So instead, I went back outside with the gun, aimed it into the air, and fired a shot. The sound echoed through the night, and the dogs went silent. I yelled out, "Get off our land," as loud as I could, hoping that would scare off whoever was out there. We all had a nervous laugh after that, thinking the worst was over. But just as we started to relax, the dogs started up again, barking even louder than before. I ran outside, and that's when I saw him, standing right at the edge of the cornfield, not more than 20 feet from the dogs. He just stood there staring at me. I yelled, and he bolted into the corn. I wasn't about to go after him, but I wasn't leaving the dogs outside either. I unchained them and brought them into the house. I called my dad, hoping he'd have some good advice, but all he told me was to be the man of the house and protect my sisters. He suggested I fire another warning shot if the guy came back. We all went to our rooms after that, still on edge. My sisters took the dogs with them, and I took the gun to my room, just in case. I tried to distract myself by watching a movie on my laptop, but I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling. Then I heard it again, the whistling. It was right outside my window. I looked out and saw someone walking slowly through the grass, still whistling that creepy tune. My blood ran cold as he suddenly stopped and looked right up at my window, like he knew I was watching him. This guy was clearly trying to scare us, but I wasn't about to let that happen. I grabbed the gun, aimed out the window, and fired into the ground a few feet away from him. He took off running, and this time he didn't come back. We never found out who he was or what he wanted. Maybe it was just some kid playing a prank, or maybe it was something more sinister. All I know is I've never felt the same about living here since that night. So, what do you think? Was it just a dumb prank, or was there something darker lurking in those cornfields? Let me know in the comments. And remember, if you ever hear whistling in the dark, don't ignore it. You never know who or what might be out there. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more creepy stories. Until next time, this is Hunter signing off from Midnight Scare. Stay safe out there.